Hello, this is Bullet, aka the Passive Aggressive Sherpa. In today's video, I'm talking about how cool it would have been if Destiny 2 was more like the original, but with just the cool stuff. I have tried several times to make a video talking about all the things I love about Destiny 2, and have failed every time. Why? Because for every cool thing that Bungie did in Destiny 2, they ruined like 5 other things. And I just get so mad at whoever was in charge at Bungie for making the worst decision in gaming history. Then as I would continue to write the script, I'd get more and more frustrated and start losing focus. Then it turns into another video bashing Bungie. And I'm just getting so tired of that. I hate seeing videos bashing the game. I hate even more making those videos. But at this point, it's about all there's left to do. I realize that Bungie is trying, but that excuse just pisses me off even more. Bungie is always just trying to fix things. And with every new release of something, it comes at a price. They seem incapable of just fixing an issue. For example, in the most recent This Week at Bungie post on their blog, dated March 8th, 2018, they talk about how they're going to buff some weapons. Great. We need to feel more powerful. And this is supposed to be one of the many things that they are doing to make that happen. But this is what they said about some of the buffs. In particular, explosive rounds. Decreased PvE explosive rounds damage. This decrease has been compensated for with an increase in PvE damage for the base weapons. Your weapons with explosive rounds will not do less damage after the 1.14 update. This was placed at the very bottom of the list of all the weapons that are getting, or of all the weapons and all the perks that are getting buffed. This to me is the very core of the problems at Bungie. All they had to do was increase the damage. But no, they couldn't just do that. They had to then reduce the damage done to the explosive rounds. So basically, there's no change to these weapons, to the weapons that have the explosive rounds. They increase the primary damage, but decrease the perk damage. So you're stuck with the same thing. It's like they're stuck in a loop of futility. Think of it like this. Let's say that you're in a school, and you need at least you're in school and you need at least a 3.8 GPA to get into the college you want. You have a 3.6 GPA. You know it's that one teacher that gave you a C when you know you should have at least gotten a B. So you sit down with that teacher, and they look at all your work, and they agree that you should have gotten a B on that paper. So they give you a B, and you're happy. Life is good. Then the final grades come out, and you still have a 3.6 GPA, and you're like, what the fuck? You go back to the teacher, and you're like, Mr. Bungie, you said that you changed my grade to a B, but my GPA remained the same. And Mr. Bungie responds, well, I did change your grade to a B, but while going over all your work, I noticed that there was another paper you turned in that I gave you an A on, but in reality, it should have been a B. That pretty much sums up most of what Bungie's updates have been like in Destiny 2. You can tell them what the problem is, but for whatever reason, they won't just fix the issue. They have to dick around with all kinds of things that had nothing to do with the problem. And at best, you end up at the same place you started, or worse, you're now 2 steps back. I realized all this while going back and playing the original Destiny. It was so much fun. But if I'm going to be honest, there were some things about it that annoyed me. One of the main things was something they didn't have in Destiny but now have in Destiny 2. And that is the improvement to our jumps. Well, not so much the improvement to our jumps, but rather the how we land them. In Destiny 2, when you jump onto something, if you get close enough, your character will now grab it and pull you up the rest of the way. That is such an awesome improvement over what we had in Destiny. How many times did we miss jumps in Destiny and face plant into a wall, and then had to jump again to try to make it? Or worse, ended up falling to our deaths. How horrible was that? How frustrating was it? Problem solved in Destiny 2. I love that. There were so many cool things like that in Destiny 2 that we overlook, because Bungie couldn't just fix the problems in Destiny and call it Destiny 2. Instead, they changed the very fundamentals of the game for no reason. They changed all our supers with no explanation whatsoever. We lose our light, we lose our weapons and gear, fight to get them all back, and they're somehow different now. Why? Because Bungie can't just fix something. I think part of the problem with Destiny 2 is that Bungie promised all kinds of improvements, and they told us about them, and we got excited. I think all of us imagined Destiny 2 would basically be Destiny but with all these improvements. And there were a lot of improvements in Destiny 2. That jump thing I just mentioned, being able to go wherever you want in the game without having to first go back to orbit. How cool is that? The new Titan Smash. I love having multiple smashes. That's pretty sweet. Also, giving the Titan that Void Captain America shield. Sure, they're ripping off Captain America, and I never use it. But it's nice for those people that like the Void class. They now have more to do than to just pop a bubble. But they didn't just do that, because with Bungie, for all they giveth, they must also taketh away. So instead of just adding Captain America's shield and the multiple Titan Smash, they actually made each subclass have less options. There's no fine-tuning like we had in Destiny. They couldn't just add all the cool stuff. They had to take away a ton of other cool stuff we already had. So we're stuck with a game that has some cool improvements to it, but when they took away everything else that mattered, it's just not Destiny anymore. I think most of us would gladly give up all the cool things in Destiny 2 just to have Destiny back. It's no secret that I have hated Nightfall in Destiny 2. For example, I think most people have. This is yet another example of how Bungie could have just given us additional stuff for Nightfall. But instead of just giving us stuff, they took away everything that made Nightfall great. I love that there's a normal and prestige mode. I love that they have added guided games, that they added a guided games option. Though I think all they had to do was allow the option for matchmaking. So instead of selecting guided games, you would just select matchmaking instead. Simple, fast, effective. Apparently beyond the grasp of Bungie. When we complained in these new Nightfalls that there wasn't enough time to finish the event, we asked that the Nightfall not end just because we run out of time. What does Bungie do? They remove the timer altogether. They say they're going to add back scoring like they used to have in Destiny. What does Bungie do? Add some weird thing with pointless scoring modifiers that are already being cheated. We ask that they bring back the old modifiers instead of this time warp crap. What does Bungie do? They remove all the modifiers and instead let you choose what elemental burn you want to apply? Really? All these things were so easy to fix, but they just keep overthinking everything and somehow making it worse. Bungie's next update is going to, hopefully, bring us some new cool stuff. And I'm once again hoping for the best. But I'm no longer excited for it, because so far, every new update they have promised us has also taken something away or changed something that didn't need to be changed. And unfortunately, I have no doubt this update will bring us more of the same. But as I played the original Destiny last week, I just couldn't help but imagine how awesome Destiny 2 would have been had they just included what we already had in Destiny and added the jump catching thing that I spoke about earlier. The prestige mode to Nightfall, guided games and or matchmaking option. If they included the go everywhere option instead of having to go back to orbit. I think this is what we thought Destiny 2 would be. Instead, they gave us those things at the price of everything else that made Destiny the amazing game that it was. When will they learn? When will they stop trying to overachieve and just fix what is broken? Until that happens, Destiny 2 will continue to be broken. As long as they refuse to just fix things that are broken, this will never end. We're going nowhere fast. Because every one thing Bungie fixes, they break two other things. If you really take the time to read Bungie's latest post, I think you'll find what I did. And that is, though there are some really great changes coming in next week's update, a lot of it isn't going to matter. Because they're changing other things around it that kind of make some of the other changes pointless. Like I mentioned with the new explosive, with the explosive damage perk thing. They are doing something similar to the Arc Strider for the Hunter. They're supposed to be making that subclass faster, but if you read carefully, they're changing other aspects of it to equal it out, and that defeats the purpose. They need to learn to just fix something without adjusting anything else. Just fix the damn problem and be done with it. It's not that complicated, and anyone who says otherwise is completely missing the point. I just keep imagining how cool Destiny 2 would have been if all they did was just add these new things and continued with what Destiny was. New stories, new strikes, new raids, new quests, new gears. That's it. The game would be dominating. But instead, they took away almost everything that made Destiny so awesome. They took away our power. They took away our light. They took away the number of people that can play in the Crucible. They took away the options to play the Crucible game modes you want to play. They changed Nightfall, and they keep making it worse. Instead of creating new raids, they're making raid layers. The game was estimated to have cost $500 million. Where did that money go? It's certainly not in the game. Destiny 2 was so tiny when it came out. It took about a month before most of us hardcore players did everything. We had every weapon. We did every quest. That is insane. That's shameful. Instead of making quests and missions, they put all kinds of exotic ships and sparrows behind a paywall. Shameful. And to top it all off, most of the exotic ships and sparrows do nothing more than the legendary versions. They mostly are all just reskins. Mostly. I know I'm going off on a rant here. I would much rather talk about some new quests in the game, some hidden features, some dead ghost to have found, some new exotic that was actually worth a damn. But none of that exists anymore in Destiny 2. It's all been done. It was all done within the first month of the game's release. Then there was the epic failure of Mercury and the Curse of Osiris. How could they take the talents of Oded Fair and the flawless perfection that is Marina Baccarin and make such a simplistic expansion? Seriously, I never go to Mercury. They promised us the infinite forest and a huge new public event. Instead, what we got was an area the size of a fucking Walmart parking lot. And the only access to the infinite forest is through strikes, missions, and adventures. Once again, we expected Bungie to deliver new quests and whole new areas to explore. They teased us with this amazing infinite forest that is basically something we just run through to get to the actual story. I get that the infinite forest is amazing for what it is. It's the developer's dream. It's an amazing accomplishment. But it's absolutely fucking useless. And the fact that apparently the people at Bungie were so amazed by the ability that it could randomly generate different areas every time someone enters it, they forgot to give the players a reason to give a shit about it. It's an amazing feat that adds nothing to the game. We can't go in and explore it. There is nothing to find in it. It's just a random, confusing path to get to where you need to go. And that is so sad. It's really a cool thing, but it's wasted. The infinite forest should be the point to Mercury. It should be the destination, not the journey. Let's say there was something you had to do in the forest in order to proceed. Yes, sometimes you have to kill some bad guys to get the next gate to open. But it's very rare, and I don't see it in the 2 strikes that I recall. The only time I think you have to do that is in some of the missions in the stories. There should be at least one closed gate in every session of the infinite forest. That's just common sense. Why not make the place more relevant? Why not open it up? Imagine that you could head to Mercury and enter the forest at will. Imagine you could find things, dead ghosts that are only in specific sections of the forest, meaning you couldn't just go into the forest and revive the dead ghost. You'd have to go into the forest and find that specific section of the forest. You might have to go in it 100 times to find that one version of it. That is a grind. That would keep people going. Imagine further that the infinite forest was just that infinite, that you could keep going gate after gate. Imagine all the things that could be hidden in there for us to find. My point is, imagine all that could have been possible in Destiny 2. Instead, at every turn, Bungie keeps giving us the simplest version of it. And even when they go to correct something, they can't just fix it. They have to mess around with 5 other things that weren't broken. I think Destiny 2 will be fun again, but it's going to be a very long road to get there, especially when they keep wasting time changing things that weren't broke. Explosive damage wasn't broke. Weapon damage was weak. All they had to do was increase it. No one said, hey, if you're going to increase it, how about you go ahead and decrease the explosive damage? Sure wouldn't want any gun to be more powerful than the other. Seriously. If the point is to make them all equal, then just give us one gun instead of 300 guns that all do the same thing. When it comes to the Crucible, there are 2 changes that I'm really looking forward to. The increase from 4v4 to 6v6. 4v4 wasn't a bad idea per se. I think maybe for their pretend competitive mode, that's fine. But for true PvP players, all that matters is clash and time to spawn. So as long as Bungie is just giving us back 6v6 and the new 2-second spawn, I think it will make the Crucible a lot more entertaining. Hopefully they don't change a bunch of crap that makes it worse or even pointless. Although I will admit that this is one of those times when you can't just do one thing. You can't just make 6v6 and leave the length of the match the same. They need to bump up the scoring or the time of the match, or else the game is going to be like 4 minutes long, and that would be pointless. I believe they're updating that, but I don't recall it being mentioned in the latest post. I could be wrong about that. Maybe it was mentioned. There is a lot to look forward to, but try not to get your hopes up. I'm not saying don't play it and don't give it a chance. Just don't make the mistake that I keep making and hoping that Bungie is going to actually deliver an update as promised, because that probably isn't going to happen. But with any luck, they will deliver an update that at least for once makes things a little better overall. And that is what I'm hoping for. It's just 8 days away. Here's hoping for the best. And that's it for this video. If you liked this video, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. It's greatly appreciated. And if we could get 1,187 likes on this video, that'd be great. But most of all, thanks for watching.